Okay, hi Richard. I'm making these videos for Richard. Richard Vobes. I got to start saying his last name. And anyways, Richard, I'm gonna show you a few things and try to explain this to you in another way. This is all today's videos are gonna be revolving around the 10-minute video that you did earlier, which I'll go to again in between showing this because I want to play some examples. My point is that we've been lied to all along, and every time they're giving you a lie that they're pretending is a new lie, it ends up being a lie that's already been there for hundreds of years or longer. And we've been living by all these lies already. So to pretend to ourselves and lie to ourselves that it's coming or it might come and we got to be ready for it and try to stop it from coming, that's not the game. They're using the system against you. They're distracting you from reality. So this video I'm about to play right here is on the House floor in the United States, and we're going to listen to the senator question this lady about some things. And up on the above screen, I've got some moon things going on because I wanted to get in on the moon, which I'm going to try to do still. While I'm doing your videos, I would need to bring you to the moon to show you in the moon the true creator's work so you can get it through your head on it. It's a bigger deal than all this shit that you're being distracted by down here, right here, okay? So this lady's about to tell us something. Again, I'm gonna tell you how they mix the lies with truth. So they're telling what she's about to say. He's gonna ask her about the disinformation board, okay? So they're saying, no, there's no disinformation board. It's been torn down. Listen, the disinformation board is fucking Google, right? It's Google. It's Microsoft. They're the fucking disinformation board. So they've been there for a long time. But we're all going to pretend that might be coming down the road because YouTube is censoring us and all this shit. No, man, don't work that way. It's already done. It's over. And we need to turn around and look back, not keep pretending like we're going to stop what's coming.
In disinformation work pertaining to threats to the homeland and the American people for over a decade. With respect to this internal working group, there were...
I have to tell you, we've had the darndest time getting any information about this board out of your agency. We've asked and we've asked, members of this committee have asked. We would know virtually nothing had it not been for this whistleblower who turned over a tranche of documents, all of which are now public. So since I have you here and you wrote them...
Yeah, a whistleblower, and the shit's been fucking public since Google was announced, right? 40 years ago, right? That's when the disinformation, and even that was, the disinformation board started with the fucking Bible. The disinformation board started with, I mean, we can go way the fuck back when we can start looking at the disinformation board, and they're pretending that it's something that they're developing. Fucking liars, man.
The memo. Let me just ask you a question or two about it. Whose idea was it to establish this board?
Senator, the Department of Homeland Security has engaged in disinformation work pertaining to threats to the homeland and the American people for over a decade. With respect to this internal working group, there were discussions about the need to ensure that there were guardrails in place across the department to protect civil rights and civil liberties and privacy. And as such, there were discussions about creating this internal working group.
Well, yeah, all of that I noticed is in the passive voice. My question is, whose idea was it to set up the? And you use the word working group, but I noticed that that's not at all what the memo says. It doesn't call it a working group. The directive that Mr. Mayorkas eventually signed off.
Whose idea was it? It was the 7.8 billion zombie slaves who ignore it. The 7.8 billion zombie slaves who say someday these bad things are going to happen if we don't watch out, when in reality the bad things already happen. They're already there. They're already in place. Even worse than what you're claiming is supposedly coming someday. It's all fucked up. It's all backwards.
Off on does not make this board a working group. It had managerial authority, it had directive authority, all of that's in these documents. So let's please not go back to those tired and now disproven talking points. So let me come back to my question. Whose idea was...
Yeah, let's not.
Completely mad. Here is Andrew Bridgen on YouTube on Business in the House yesterday.
Deputy Speaker, the Leader of the House will no doubt recall that we both ran on a manifesto commitment in 2010 to scrap Labour's plans for identity cards, and we were supported by the electorate on libertarian and privacy grounds. Given that there's been no public consultation on this matter since, can we please have a debate on any government plans for the introduction of digital IDs, which have recently been trumpeted by Tony Blair, who is the heir apparent to the World Economic Forum throne, and interestingly, is also the original proponent of those identity card plans, which the electorate rejected at the ballot box.
I'd say two things to the honourable gentleman. I mean, first of all, that is our record. It is incredibly important that such matters are debated, but there are no such plans to introduce the measures that he alludes to, and nor, I'm afraid, is the mention of the World Economic Forum or some global conspiracy that sits behind all of this.
Right, because there's no such thing as a globe. It's made up. It's in your imagination. There's no such thing as a world. It's made up. It's in your imagination. The lies began a long time ago.
Remotely accurate or based in fact.
So there we are, that's Penny Mordaunt there, and what I was flicking to here is Hansard. Hansard is, of course, the parliamentary vlog, if you like. It's a record of everything that takes place in the government, and it's publicly available at hansard.parliament.uk, and you can weave your way to it. And so here we go. It's actually printed out as yesterday, as I record this, Andrew Bridgen, Northwest Leicestershire, and you can see the Leader of the House will no doubt recall that we both ran on a manifesto commitment in 2010 to scrap Labour's plan for identity cards, and we were supported by an elaborate and a libertarian on private grounds, etc. He says, given that there has been no public consultation on the matter, can we please have a debate on any government plans for the introduction of digital IDs, which have been recently trumpeted by Tony Blair, etc. And Penny Mordaunt,
Which were put into place 30 years ago, been implemented. The computer technology is all ready. The data's been being collected for 25, 30 years. Everything is already done. And they got everyone looking for shit that's not even half as bad as what it really is, and they're looking for it coming down the pike, and it's already here. Okay, this is who I want to introduce you to, Richard, is this girl here at The Real News, and we're going to watch this video. It might be a little boring, but it pertains to what I'm explaining to you about all these liars. They're just lying motherfuckers, but this girl's also a really nice person, and she too was talking about things that she thinks that are only happening now or coming someday, but really they've already been going on for a long, long time. We've already militarized our police. We militarized our police, and 7.8 billion zombies all stood back and watched it happen and did nothing about it, said nothing about it. They gave us hoaxes and fake shit like we talked about the other day. Buildings falling down, moon landings going on, all these fake ass fucking lies. CGI, you got Elon Musk sending Tesla cars to Mars and all this nonsense. It's all bullshit, all lies that everyone buys into, and all distractions from what this girl's about to explain to you.
Hello, my name is Taya Graham, and welcome to the Police Accountability Report. As I always make clear, this show has a single purpose: holding the politically powerful institution of policing accountable. And to do so, we don't just focus on the bad behavior of individual cops. Instead, we examine the system that makes bad policing possible. And today, to achieve that goal, we will be showing you this video of an arrest by a Massachusetts cop of a man who refused to show identification. But it's what the officer did after the man who took the video fought for his rights, and how his charges contradicted what we will see on camera that will be the subject of the show today. An example of how law enforcement can turn mundane situations into life-altering trauma. But before we get started, I want you watching to know that if you have video evidence of police misconduct or brutality, please share it with us, and we might be able to investigate for you.
Right, have evidence of police misconduct. The laws themselves are police misconduct. The laws that are put in place are police misconduct. So again, she's looking at things that uh, she's trying to put not even the brakes on, but don't want them to get any worse than they already are. They can't possibly get any worse than they already are because 7.8 billion people sit back and do nothing about it. And every one of these laws that gets put into place to hurt the average citizen, human being, and no one does nothing about it. We're gonna all watch these videos. You think they're gonna get as much views as CNN, Fox News, all these other conglomerates that are out there running all the news channels? Of course not. So there's gonna be millions of people that are not gonna have this information that this girl's about to give you.
For you, please reach out to us. You can email us tips privately at par@therealnews.com and share your evidence of police misconduct. You can also message us at Police Accountability Report on Facebook or Instagram, or at Eyes on Police on Twitter. And of course, you can always message me directly at Tejas Baltimore on Twitter or Facebook. And if you can, please leave a like or a comment to help share our work with other people who care about justice and accountability. All right, we've gotten that out of the way. Now, one aspect of American policing we have covered extensively on our show is a topic that seems simple but isn't, namely the seemingly limitless ability for police to ask for or even demand identification. It's a question that usually focuses on the legal ramifications. In other words, when can a
So pay attention to this now, because what I'm explaining to you, Richard, is that here she is. She's talking about IDs. This guy won't give a piece of plastic with his picture on it and his social security number. All these things that we didn't do anything about. We said, okay, yeah, you're going to turn us into, corporate slaves, and we're going to be nothing as human beings. We're giving away all of our rights for anything, just in the plastic one. Now, what she's about to say, she's not taking into consideration that all the cameras that are on the streets that have facial recognition, the clerk in the store that she's about to talk about, the clerk in the store may not even have reported it. It might have been a computer report, because I have evidence myself of the local stores here in Massachusetts of seeing people get arrested coming out of a store. They didn't steal anything. They didn't do nothing. They didn't start a fight in the store. They weren't arguing. They weren't being disruptive. Nothing. They're walking out the door and they get pulled in on a warrant, on an outstanding warrant. Warrant could be for a traffic violation. It could be non-payment of parking tickets. It could be anything. And I've seen this many times. I'm only one person in a small town, and I've seen this. It's just that no one else looks. The other 7.8 billion zombies that were all walking past us as I'm standing there watching the police. Now, I was asked on a couple of these occasions, I was asked, what am I doing there? Why am I standing there watching them? I was not filming them. I was just watching to see what was going on. And both of those cases where I was even approached as a bystander of asking them, they asked me for my ID. Why are you standing here watching us? Well, we're doing our business. We're doing what I'm just watching. I want to see what's going on. He's not stealing. He didn't steal nothing. His girlfriend's got a carriage full of stuff there. It's all paid for. She's got a receipt and you haven't even asked for it yet. So obviously you're not taking them in on stealing that. So just asking questions of something that you're witnessing is a big deal. And then other people that are walking by, I'm thinking to myself, they're all just fucking walking by. They're not paying attention to none of this. They don't understand that this guy got picked up on facial recognition going into Walmart. Him and his girlfriend shopped for over an hour, whatever it might be. I'm just guessing. So, they were shopping and I seen them in the store when I was in there. So, I didn't think nothing of them or whatever. He was a young guy. He didn't think nothing of it. Probably just even kind and said hello or whatever as walking by. So when I was walking out the door and seeing they were coming out behind me, I was putting my carriage away, and all of a sudden they pulled him to the side. They pulled his girlfriend's carriage, and the girlfriend on the side, patted him down, embarrassed him. His kid was there, his child was there. So he gets embarrassed in front of his kid that he's being patted down. They're already cuffing him. They didn't even ask him for his ID. So he was already ID'd by the camera. The camera's already ID'd him. So that's the point I'm trying to stress to you, Richard, is that if you're going to be, I mean, I'm not saying don't do the things that you're doing. I'm just saying look at the bigger picture, because it's even bigger than what you think, and it's already been done. It's all this shit's already been implemented. Same thing with this girl. I can't make a series out to every fucking person that comes along. I have to be, you know, choicey about who I'm going to make series to, because I want this to get out there. I want everyone to go see the system. So I cannot continue to be distracted by all these other things, but they're so important that I need to jump in here and there and say this stuff. I got to get to the moon. I'm on the moon up here. I'm got moon videos going on up top one, but this is just so fucking important. Now, this girl's story that she's about to tell, it's a guy's story actually, and it's very interesting. And if I can shut up, it's already at 15 minutes, so I gotta hit play so we can hear this story.
A cop demand your ID, and what rights do you have if you refuse? But there is more to this question than just criminal code or legal procedures, because the fact that there are so many scenarios when police can make the ultimatum, produce your ID or else, that it's worth unpacking the broad implications.
In order to avoid copyright strikes, I'm trying to get the labels out of the screen is what I'm doing here.
Of this power on both our lives and our rights. And no video is a better example of what I'm talking about than the front encounter with Weymouth, Massachusetts police I am showing you now. It happened when resident Paul Brophy and a friend were sitting in the parking lot of a convenience store in Weymouth in October in 2019. His passenger had just purchased some snacks and cigarettes.
And listen carefully. No more badge numbers. No more name tags. The police have been militarized. Listen carefully.
When an officer approached their car. Watch.
So let's talk about what I'm asking for. You cooperate, give me your ID, we see who you are, we can send you on your way in short time. But because now you're prolonging this situation, because you're being, defiant.
No, I'm not being defiant.
Yes, I asked you for an ID, simple request.
I said respectfully, officer.
That's not respectfully, that's actually defiant.
Wait, you're escalating now.
What's that?
You're escalating.
I'm not escalating.
I mean, it's
You're
about
being
de-escalation.
Okay.
No, can we talk to each other? You're a public servant. I'm a public servant.
Then why are you being defiant? Why
I'm
would
not
you
being defiant. I'm not being defiant. I'm defending my rights that you swore to protect.
Ask for an ID. You offer the ID. You'll be sent on your way shortly after.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you can see, it's clear the officer is completely unable to share what's known as reasonable articulable suspicion that Paul committed a crime. That is generally the standard for making what's known as a custodial stop, or where you're not free to leave until the officer says so. In fact, he seems pretty much at a loss to even articulate why he's talking to the two men at all. And I say this ironically because it appears the officer thinks that the routine.
And Richard, just to let you know, all the laws that are here in the United States are worse in Canada and in the United Kingdom. So just to let you know, you have all the same shit going on there.
Parking and purchasing a snack is actually nefarious. Take a look.
Why can't you produce an ID?
Well, it's about the Constitution. Mom,
okay. Which part of the Constitution?
The First Amendment.
The First Amendment?
It's probably not the first. That's what the Assembly and all that.
It's the fifth.
But it's the first. I'm not pleading the fifth.
See, clearly you don't even know the Constitution. So
off by heart, no, I don't.
Or your constitutional rights, because
do you?
what you're saying.
You should advise me of my rights now. You should be helping me.
I'm asking
What is
you to
your
help
name?
me.
Your name?
I'm asking you to help me.
Can I ask you what's your name?
My name's Steven. What's your name?
Well, can I see your? Are you detective or?
No,
Well, can I see your name tag?
we don't have name tags.
Okay.
Are you going to operate this motor vehicle?
I had planned to leave when he said we were loitering. Yeah.
Okay.
Who just
if you're
thought to
gonna-
leave, officer?
If you're going to operate this motor vehicle, I need to know if you have a valid
Your
license to drive the
You
motor
gotta give
vehicle.
him your ID. You gotta
So-
know.
Let me see your
That's
ID.
not
and
my
we can go right
problem.
from there.
That's not my issue. Come on now.
Well, that clearly, if you're going to drive this motor vehicle away, I need to know if you are a valid licensed operator. That way, I can find that out. How am I going to find that out? by you producing me an ID.
No, I'm sorry.
You
I'm not
don't
gonna
produce
do
me
it.
an ID, you don't drive this vehicle away.
Okay. Whatever you say, officer.
That's what I say.
You're in charge.
That's correct.
Now, it's worth noting that Paul, at his own risk, refuses to relinquish his rights. In fact, even as the officer escalates the encounter, Paul attempts to de-escalate, all the while simply trying to protect the rights enshrined in the Constitution. Just watch.
So if you're not going to
Power and
produce an
control.
ID,
It's all about power and control.
no, it's
Yes,
not
it
power
is.
and control.
Everyone's
It's
a
me doing my
criminal.
job.
Everyone's a criminal.
It's me doing my job.
Why do you look at people like they're criminals? Do I look like a criminal to you?
Have I looked at you like a criminal? I asked you
Yeah,
for an
you
ID.
know you've talked to me like I'm a criminal.
No, believe me. Trust me when I tell you. I've talked to people like they're criminals. I'm not talking like a criminal. So, rest assured. I'm asking you for your ID.
I'm
You want to operate this motor vehicle?
respectfully refusing.
Okay, then I'm going to respectfully tell you that you're going to be getting out of this motor vehicle because you're not going to drive the motor vehicle without a license that I know that you're a valid licensed operator.
Of course, at this point, you're probably saying, why doesn't he just hand over his license? Why not just give the cop what he wants? Why be what the mainstream media likes to call a troublemaker? Well, let me briefly address that before I show you what happened next, because the sequence of events you're about to see will certainly answer that question full stop. First, what are the point of our rights if they are strictly conditional? How are the First Amendment, which guarantees our ability to move about without government intervention, and our Fourth Amendment, which protects us from unwarranted searches, meaningful at all if we need permission from a person with a gun and a badge to invoke them? Seriously. And if you don't think how and when we can invoke rights are important, take a look at what happens next.
You're escalating now again. You get
No.
louder.
Whether I'm getting louder
Yeah.
or not has nothing to do with it. Apparently, you don't understand that right now, you not producing an ID
You're standing up for my
Means-
rights.
means-
and I'd
means
stand
you're
up
not
for
gonna be able to
yours too.
drive this motor
I'd stand up for yours too. And I did.
although, be
He,
that as
he
it
was
may,
very aggressive
if
back
this,
then,
you're
when he came to the window.
You're ignorant. If this
He's trying to
situation
provoke
when the
me.
clerk has called us,
Yes, but what did the clerk say, can I ask?
I have not spoken to the clerk,
Yeah.
She wasn't sure.
but what we got transmission-wise over the radio,
Yes. What was
that he
that?
was suspicious about the activity that was going on, which means there's a potential for a crime.
Okay, yes, I understand that.
If there's a potential for a crime,
Yes.
are, or about to commit a crime, I have every right to ask for your ID.
If you believe or are under suspicion. Okay.
Bingo.
Well, suspicion.
Right, that's
It's called-
that's
it's
fine.
called-
Suspicion
it's called
doesn't give you
reasonable
rights.
Suspicion. At that point, we have the right to ask for an ID. Okay?
No, you
And
don't.
because you are under suspicion for that potential crime that may or may not be going
It's a touchy
on,
area.
it's for us to
I
investigate.
understand. It's a touchy
We
area
do that.
though. It's a
I can
gray
see
area.
the
Correct.
difference
But
there.
now that we got to the
Yeah.
point where he
No,
wants
this
to
is a gray
drive this
area, I
motor
know.
vehicle away,
Yeah.
he needs to produce an ID.
Yeah,
Driver's
you
license
don't
unless
know
he
if
produces
that
it.
guy going up the street has a valid
Stop.
driver's license.
Calm down.
That guy going up the street
Yeah.
isn't part of a criminal
Right.
investigation.
A criminal
Oh,
investigation.
no, it's not.
There's a potential criminal investigation here.
If I assert my
You haven't-
rights,
you
I'm
haven't-
not being uncooperative.
You haven't
Officer.
told me why.
You haven't told me your name.
I did tell you my name.
No,
I
I
did.
asked you for your name tag, and you said that
We don't have name tags. No name tag.
just badge numbers. What's your badge number?
There's no number
117?
on my badge. There's no number on this badge.
Well, you don't have a badge number? So
Do you
how
see-
do I know you're a cop?
Do you see a number on the badge? Because I have a badge, and it says police right on here.
Man,
And
I
I'm
could
driving
get
a
one of
police
them
car.
online.
I have a police car right there. Want to see it? Want to see the police? It says it right on the side of it.
Well, in this day and age, you know.
Do you want to see the police? It says it right on the side of the car. Come on out. I'll show you.
Check it
I can see it.
Come on out.
I can see it.
Inspect the
Step
car.
out. I'll show you it.
Okay.
Inspect it.
Show it. No,
You
show me.
convinced.
I'm not like giving anyone permission to go into my car.
No, you don't get no.
Why do you want me to step out of the car? I'm not stepping out of the car.
So you
Because
can,
not a chance. No, hold
so
on.
you
Can I close my door?
so you can see
Let
the
me close
police
my
now.
door. I don't want to see it.
I'll tell you right now. You just put your hands on me. That's why I'm grabbing you. All right. You just put your hands on me. That's why I'm grabbing
And
you.
you
Now,
want that down?
now what we have here is a different scenario. You're being aggressive, and now I'm going to ask you out of this vehicle.
Give him your license.
I'm gonna ask you out of this vehicle.
I'm not getting out of
Give
the
me your
vehicle.
ID.
Can I get a supervisor, please? Can I get a supervisor?
You can get 10 supervisors.
Now. Can I get a supervisor now?
Listen to your buddy and
This
give
is
me
how
your
it
ID.
goes.
No,
Can
listen,
you let
just
go
give
of
me
my
your
arm,
ID.
please?
Can you let go
Can
of
you
his
let go of
arm,
my arm?
officer?
Why?
Because I don't feel safe right now.
All right,
With you
I don't
reaching
feel
out-
safe
reaching
getting out of the car.
I have a taser and I have a gun.
You
You
do.
reached out to me and I feel unsafe with you doing that.
Listen to me. Look at me.
So what I'm going to do now
look
is
at me,
I'm going
look
to
at me.
take you out of this car.
Listen, please, guys, don't
you
be
do
harsh.
not
Don't be harsh to them, man.
Step out on your own.
Okay, I'll step out on my own. It's a lawful order.
It is a lawful order.
Why,
It's a lawful order.
why do you want me out of the car?
Because I
Hey,
feel
want to talk to you? Let me show you something, all right?
Now you're going to turn around.
I'm not resisting.
I don't know what he did, but you're just detaining him for a minute? What are you doing?
Just for a minute, just so
Okay.
we get an
Thank-
idea.
all right.
We can get
All right.
supervisor in
Thank
a
you.
minute.
That's all I'm asking for, supervisor.
Yeah, you'll get the.
Oh, you're bringing me in?
No, they're not bringing you in, dude. They're just detaining you for a minute.
He said I'm gonna see the supervisor in the station.
No, you can call him here.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna charge you. ABPO. You can see him. That's assault and battery on a police officer.
Oh.
Assault and battery is any unwanted touching of somebody. This,
I did
You
not
re-
touch him. I reached.
I
for
want
the
you to reach
girl.
out.
You reach for me? I have a taser right here. You reach for the dude with my taser?
That's right. The officer accused Paul of assaulting him and reaching for his weapons. I'm not kidding. After asking him to get out of the vehicle, he actually summons serious charges against him: assault and battery of a cop. All because he was parked in a car outside of a convenience store at the ungodly hour of 2 a.m. Now, we're going to talk to Paul Brophy about what happened, why he fought for his rights, and how this entire ordeal affected him. But first, I'm joined by my reporting partner, Stephen Janis, who's been looking into the case, researching the law, and seeking comments from the police. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me.
Taya, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So first, what does the law in Massachusetts say about providing an ID to police when they ask?
According to the ACLU of Massachusetts, it's really clear. The only time a police officer in Massachusetts can request your ID is when you're operating a motor vehicle, which clearly was not happening at this time. But really, I think this is a constitutional case. I think federal law governs here, and he was doing what anyone is allowed to do in this country, which is pretty much peaceably assemble without a cop going in and saying, "Who are you?" So I think this is clearly a constitutional case, and I think that's the overriding concern here.
You've reached out to both police and prosecutors. How are they justifying the charges?
Well, Taya, I reached out to Weymouth Police. I sent them a video of the arrest. They sent me back the police report, and it is extraordinary and telling. Now, the entire probable cause in this case was a man going in and out of a convenience store and getting in and out of a motor vehicle. That was the whole basis for a crime investigation. But even more important, there are no notes about the police officer talking to the clerk in the store and trying to understand or discern why this was so disturbing. But really, there was no basis for a crime. There was no basis for a criminal investigation. If going in and out of a store is a crime, well, I'm a criminal, you're a criminal, we're all criminals. It's pretty scary what the officer used to construe this encounter and this sort of custodial stop. And then the officer, I think, really embellished. Actually, embellished is not even really adequate to describe it. He said that, Paul went out and grabbed him by the waist. I think you see on the video that's not what happened. So this whole statement of probable cause, this whole police report raises a lot of questions about this entire arrest.
Now, a judge did rule about the officer demanding the ID. What was the ruling? And more importantly, what are your concerns about what happened during this seemingly illegal arrest?
Well, tell you what's interesting here is the judge actually agreed. The judge ruled that the officer did not have the right to ID Paul at this point, and really said, that was not a reasonable or even legal request for an ID. The only problem is the judge did not rule that actually vacated the entire charge of, harming a police officer or, assault and battery of a police officer. So really, it didn't amount to much, but the truth is...
So, Richard, they don't take it back far enough. First of all, the police officer had no evidence that the store clerk was not a witness, and the store clerk did not sign an affidavit saying that he even called the police. They don't even know if he called the police. It might have been a computer call. So if the camera picked up some kind of facial recognition or some kind of what the camera or the computer considered suspicious behavior, right, or whatever, then or if somebody else that was working a camera system was to pick up on that. So we don't even know because they don't make the store clerk verify that they. Matter of fact, the charges, all it sounds like to me, still went through. I'll keep playing. There's enough time on here. What am I at? 30 something minutes. I think we can get to the end of the video, but I just want to point out these few things because it's so hard to listen to the idea that this is happening now, but the reason why it's happening is that we let all these laws go into play and all these cameras are up on every pole for a long, long time. Cameras on the cars, cameras on the police cars, cameras on the citizens' cars, cameras on the houses, cameras on all the buildings, cameras inside all the businesses, cameras, cameras, cameras. They're using facial recognition for a long, long time. When we sign the paperwork, when we go into a store, you're saying you're giving up your rights just to walk into any store. We knew this. We knew this. The whole 7.8 billion knew this was the way that it worked. So you're giving up your rights. But you know what? And most of the people that I asked, the 7.8 billion zombie slaves, they get the reputation for being zombie slaves just for that because I talked to them on the street. They're happy with it. They feel more safe and secure. They like seeing their face on the camera when they walk in and out of the store. Hi. When they walk through the pharmacy aisle, right? You got cameras down every fucking aisle and they put monitors so that you can see yourself on camera. So obviously no one has a problem with it if no one says nothing, right? You're walking by the camera every day, all the time, several times, right? A day. So how many cameras did your face get picked up by in a day, Richard? Thousands, I bet you. Thousands of them. Every time you go by a toll area and the cameras, every time you go by to a stoplight, every time you walk in and out of each one of these stores, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, any place, they all got them now. You're going home to your house where you think you're fucking safe from the cameras. You're not. You think the cameras on your house are your cameras. They're not. They're being used against you. They've been for a long time.
Is no matter what, Paul's First Amendment rights were violated. And also, I think the entire charges of assault and battery are insane. Look at the video, read the police report. There is no evidence of it. For example, in the police report, the officer did not sustain any injuries. So how is that assault and battery? So anyway, I think it's good that the judge, affirmed his constitutional rights. It's unfortunate for Paul that the legal system didn't work in his favor.
And now I'm joined by Paul Brophy, the man who endured this police overreach and whose life has been profoundly impacted by these charges. Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
Really appreciate the work you do, honest to God. It's fantastic.
So this encounter happened in a parked car. How did the police approach you?
It was very simple, really. I pulled in. It was a 24-hour store. I was doing two things. It was late in the morning. It was like 2:30, 3 o'clock from what I recall. And I pulled into the store, and my passenger got out and went in. And I was sitting there with texting or something or looking at my phone. He came back out, got into my vehicle, and I reached to start it up. Obviously, we were getting going, and next thing I realized that there's two police cars. One pulled in behind me, preventing me from leaving, and the other, first of all, it was just one car. He pulled in behind me and immediately came to the window and started asking questions. Said they got a call and can I get your ID, this and that. And my passenger gave up his ID right away, and I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, why do I have to give my ID in this position? Because first, I hadn't done anything wrong. I had no idea why they were there. And secondly, I wasn't pulled over or anything. And it was then that his backup came, and he kind of took over. And as you can see from the video, I think it took him about 15 seconds just to focus in on ID. So it became from then on ID, as opposed to we're investigating, we're asking you to stay here for a few minutes and we're going to talk to the clerk and do a proper investigation, right? But
so if you read between the lines of this story, right? This video's almost over, right? 30-something minutes. All right. If you read between the lines of the story, as this guy's telling it, him himself, who this happened to, the victim, he's a victim. The store clerk not getting questioned and not having any real answer. The store clerk not responsible for showing up in court to testify whether against or for this guy, to say, yes, they were acting suspicious. The reason why you should think a little bit more that it was the cameras and the computer that turned somebody in under facial recognition, right? Now, the police are not going to tell you this because I noticed something about this facial recognition bullshit with the cameras everywhere. Even though they have the right to do it because the 7.8 billion zombie slaves all agreed to it, and we put the cameras up ourselves, so we can't pretend and say, oh, gee, is that a conspiracy that all the home cameras that are aimed everywhere that, let's say agents, we'll just call them agents because there are so many agencies that I don't have time to go through them all, okay? There's really a lot of them. So the agencies have the right to go into any of these things. Of course, they work for the same corporations. The police have been militarized. They're all paid. Their paychecks come from corporations. No one works for their city or their town anymore. Even small rural areas, it's not that way. They all get paid by Walmart or whoever their conglomerate that's signing their paycheck, whoever the corporation is. It's been that way also for a long, long time. So the facial recognition somewhere, either on the street when he was turning into that gas station store, from the store parking lot, or from inside the store, somebody had one of those cameras made either a mistake or maybe because the reason why I say this is because number one, the witness part of it. Was there really a call? Was there really a call to the police? I mean, these guys were there 5 minutes. So the police show up in 5 minutes for a suspicious behavior in a car. That's a pretty quick response time for, some dude took 5 minutes in the store rather than longer. And maybe they were off on their time. Maybe it was 10 minutes. It's still a fast response, considering that it takes police, 15, 20 minutes to get to a real crime, right? Maybe longer sometimes, depending on what it is. So there's no crime here happening. So if it was reported that someone was out, well, did they kick the door on their way out and smash something? Did he make a mess? No. Well, what's suspicious about it? Well, he was walking in and out of the door. It didn't happen. The facial recognition picked up on something and probably mistakenly and said that this guy that got arrested here had a warrant out for his arrest or something along those lines. That's what gave him, the police officer, the right to do that. But we all agreed to this. We all agreed to these cameras everywhere. We agreed to the facial recognition. Every time we sign the paperwork, every time we sign off on it, and we allow the laws to go through. So to go back and bitch about it now and pretend that we didn't know about it, it's not a good way to do it. And then we're still, again, pretending like it's something that's going to happen someday and it's going to come. No, that's exactly what happened to this guy. The shit that you guys, Richard, are worried about coming someday has already been implemented 15 years. Here's another example of a guy who even got bagged under those conditions because it was facial recognition that picked him up, mistakenly identified him as somebody with a warrant out or something along those lines. And then the police tell him that it was a store clerk who reported him for suspicious behavior because he cannot say, oh, it was a computer call. Not able to say that. They can't. Even though it's true, even though the zombie slaves agreed to it, they still don't do that. That's one of the things that bothers me. Because when we have real crimes, they can't show themselves. They can't show themselves during a real crime. Now, a lot of what we would call real crimes, some of them are hoaxes. And the ones that are hoaxes are the weirdest ones to figure out, because you're thinking to yourself, okay, we had this really bad hoax thing that happened. Now, nobody knows it's a hoax. It's just me. I'm the only one that realizes it's a hoax. There may be one or two more out there, but everybody else just goes along with them. So whatever it might be, I don't want to say what it could be, but a bad thing happens. And then you're watching them on the news, you're watching the film, and the funny thing is that all the houses around the house in question all have cameras on them. The stores have cameras on them. There's cameras inside the house. Everybody with the phone has the camera. They're all on social media, just like I am now making this YouTube video. If someone came smashing in my window right now and making a bunch of noise behind me and all kinds of shit were to happen, a lot of people have live feed videos that they do. So a lot, so there's all these cameras everywhere is my point. Cameras on all the cars in the parking lot. There's cameras, even though they're cameras, some of them only take night shots like every several seconds or whatever it might be. You could have your timer on taking a picture, not a video. You don't want to run your video all night long, right, or all the time. Even when you're driving, your car cameras are usually doing those 2 to 3 second shots. Photographs every 3 seconds is really what they are. They're not really video or slowed down video or whatever it is. Trying to stick to the point. This guy gets fucking railroaded, right? I'm trying to do other things while I'm talking, so that's why I'm getting sidetracking myself. But everything's already done. Everything's already in place. We have to turn things around. We can't think that, and we got to blame ourselves. We have to take the blame ourselves because we're the ones that allowed all this to happen. I mean, there was a time when police were. I'd like to think so, anyways. But when you really go back in time, like you want to say to yourself after hearing a story like this, boy, it didn't used to be like this, right? It wasn't like this when I was a kid. But actually, yeah, it was. It was just maybe different nationalities that were running the show. Because I remember a time when it was mostly Irish police and everybody was in with the Italian mafias and the Irish police, and they had a good connection between themselves for a long time too. Remember, what that would have been in the 30s, 40s, that time frame, stuff like that. So the same shit was going on, just in a different way. And it's always been going on. We allowed it to go on back then. We said, "Oh, that's just the way it is." We're fucking always doing shit like this. We're zombies. We're 7.8 billion
It turned out
zombies.
to be none of that. He told me that they got a call that 2 people were running in and out of the store. There was nothing happening out of the ordinary, actually. So, as you can see from the video, then he just started demanding ID.
What do you think the suspicion of you and your passenger was? And did he ever really articulate his suspicion?
He articulated a suspicion because he said they got a call of 2 people walking in and out, running in and out of the store. So I told him I had no problem going into the store to talk to the clerk. I hadn't even been in the store. My passenger went in and came back out. He did spend about 5 minutes in there. I recall thinking, well, is he coming or what's going on? But he did just come out and then we were going to leave. So I guess his articulate suspicion was a suspicion that the store was going to be robbed, I guess. But he did say that the suspicion he had was, I can't recall his exact words on the suspicion, but he said, we got a call, 2 guys coming in and out of the store in a truck outside, and that gave him enough suspicion to investigate, which meant that I was compelled to hand over my ID, and I disagreed.
Now, you chose to stand on your rights. Why did you do that?
I think one of the big reasons was because I had educated myself through shows like yours and First Amendment auditors, and over the past year that I just really got into it, and I could not believe the fact that how the police here is totally contrary to the rights of the people. They don't, I think because most people just follow their demands or their requests, that they continue to do it this way with disregard for people's rights. That, in particular, where you live, what your social security number is, what your background is, and I figured all you had to do was run my plates anyways. It was my car. It was registered under me. It was insured. I had stickers. Everything was okay on the car. And so that was what prompted me. I watched a lot of the videos, and I'd seen so many policemen and government officials just kind of walk over people's rights. I decided to push back and just push it and see, get an explanation from him. And really, he came up with the same old kind of tried and trusted methods of, you know, where did you go to law school and this type of thing, you know. So I just answered and tried to stay calm. And I could see he was getting madder and madder. And he actually had to ask him to kind of de-escalate a little bit because I could feel his energy, you know. He wanted to drag me out of that car. He wasn't used to people, say, challenging him. And I didn't want to do it aggressively. I just wanted to be on my way and, you know, to this not to be an issue. So it turned into a big issue, and it turned into a person losing their freedom and being put in a cell because they're stopped at
Yeah, the problem is that 7.8 billion zombies all went along with it all along. We should have never had to get a driver's license in the first place. When the cop asked you and said that question about if you don't have your driver's license, you can't drive, you should have just said to him, yeah, I can. Yeah, I know how to drive, even if I don't have that piece of plastic. It's just a piece of plastic. It don't mean fucking shit to me. That's what you should have said to the fucking prick. And, you know, why not? Look at all the trouble you got in anyway for going along with it all, right? So you should have told him to go fuck himself. And that's what we should tell them all. But not just to the police, to the laws themselves that are being created and implemented in our name.